Good afternoon, guys. My name is David Sisk. I'm the director of our English Learner programs, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to come to the English as a second language teacher meeting this afternoon. Today is September 28th, 2017. But in lieu of me being there today, what I would like to do is share this short video with you that will give you the information that I would have shared had I been there today. So to begin with, I sent out an email this afternoon with the new home language survey information. And I'm going to share that with you. You should be able to see that on the screen here. So this is the new home language survey information. And you'll see that we've made some changes. On this side we have English. On this side we have Spanish. We've made this a little bit bigger to help parents better understand it. And we also felt like it was appropriate to put the English and the Spanish side by side. Down at the bottom, you'll see the questions are identical to the previous version of the home language survey. The only difference is that we changed the order of these questions. And the reason that we did this is to help data managers better input this information into PowerSchool, which will help them make sure that the accuracy of the home language information in PowerSchool is up to date. And overall, this will help all concerned because we know that the PowerSchool information feeds a lot of what we do in our school system, and we just want to make sure that was accurate. So I've shared this with you. We do have the revised date up here at the top, so you can make sure that you're working with the most recent version. So that's September 5th, 2017. And again, I emailed this to everybody this afternoon. And if you would share this with the registration personnel in your school and help us get this into circulation, I would really appreciate it. Okay, so that's the first part of my presentation. Okay, so the second part of my presentation has to do with some new documents that we have placed in the EdPlan L Support PowerSchool Learning, formerly known as Haiku. If you look on the right-hand side when you log in to the L EdPlan Haiku PowerSchool Learning, what we've got in here is just the most basic documents that you need, and some video links that will help folks when they're working with the L plans in EdPlan. And we don't currently have a good way to do our transitional monitor students in EdPlan, but we're working on that. But what we have here is we have a document that we have created, and you click here. It's called the L Transitional Monitor Form. Let's open that with a PDF. So it's going to open, and it opened in the other page. So I'll slide that over so you can see it. All right. So once you open that document, you will see it's pretty straightforward. Up at the top, we've got our logo in there. We have transitional monitor documentation, the frequency of use. So if you have a child who is 3C, so this is a transitional student, and if they're not coming to a scheduled ESL class, or if you're not working with them in a pull-out manner or providing them with that direct instruction, we need for folks to make 4 check-ins with those students per year. If you're working with a Code 2 student, so these are the monitored former English learners, we're only doing the monitored former English learners year 1 and year 2. I know that now under the ESSA accountability model, we are also including monitored former English learners into the English learner subgroup for 4 years. However, the state has not provided us with any additional information about what specifically we need to do, what our responsibilities are with those MFEL year 3 and MFEL year 4 students. So right now, we are only going to monitor our first and our second year English learners. Let me repeat. We are only going to monitor our first and our second year English learners. And those are your students in EdPlan that are Code 2. We're only going to do 2 checks a year. That's the minimum frequency that you check with them. If you want to check with them more, within reason, then you have the flexibility to do that. But we're only requiring 2 checks per year. So what you would do is you would use this document, student's name at the top, grade level, check if the child's a transitional student or a monitored student. It's pretty straightforward. And we have a row and boxes here where you can document what type of check it is. So you would put here the date of the check here if it's a classroom visit, check here if it's teacher conference, and so on. You got student conference, grade check, or an attendance check. Put down your name or the L coordinator's name and put your school here. The reason that we put school here is because students, especially within this population, tend to transfer frequently, and so you can have maybe one child that started out at Diggs Latham during the first quarter and then goes to Ashley during the second quarter and then goes somewhere else during the third quarter. So I felt like it was important that we do have the name of the school here. And then there's a couple lines here for you to jot down some notes on that student. So maybe student's name, Jose Sisk, 4th grade. He is a monitor student, so you're checking with him twice a year. Date of the check is September 28th, 2017. You had a teacher conference, so I'd check here. I'd put down David Sisk. I would put down, my school, Smith Elementary School, and I could jot some notes down here. Spoke with the teacher. The teacher indicated that the student is doing well in his class, or the student may be struggling with vocabulary, but it just gives you a location where you can document some of what you discussed with the teacher. And you have enough space here to do 4 checks on one piece of paper. Now, the question is, what do I do with these forms? What I would do, if I were teaching ESL again, and this is something that I did very similar process 15 years ago, I would simply take a 3-ring binder and I would make a copy for every one of my students that have these requirements, whether this is a transitional or monitor student. I would complete this information, I would put it in the 3-ring binder, and then at the end of the year, I would file that information into the child's green folder, which will then follow him or her to the next school that they go to. So this is a pretty straightforward form. It's a very simple way for us to remain in compliance with monitoring our transitional and our monitored students. So that's the second piece of information that I wanted to share with you, and I'm sure Ann will answer any questions that you may have. So moving on, the next piece of information that I would like to share with you. So we are now back to the EdPlan L Support Haiku Power School Learning page. If you look on the right-hand side, there's a bubble that says Read Aloud Accommodation Information. This year, the Read Aloud accommodation is a little more general. So in the past, you had a lot of different options for what that read aloud information could possibly be. And hence, we had multiple versions of what that read aloud would be and what it was written into the plans, both the EC plans, the 504 plans, the EL plans. So what we're trying to do is bring some consistency to how that accommodation is documented in EdPlan. So I've worked with the Exceptional Children's Department. Even though this says Exceptional Children's Department, we can still use this, and we actually worked in conjunction in developing this document with the EC department. So just because it says Exceptional Children, you don't need to worry about that, because we can also apply this to our English learners. So if you click on this document, we're going to open that in a PDF. And let me slide this over so you can see it. This is what that document looks like. And it gives you all of these different options that could develop when you're doing a read aloud. So there are different scenarios with the paper pencil read aloud option, where maybe the child needs everything read aloud to them. However, maybe on the paper pencil option, the child only needs certain items read aloud to them. So those are the 2 scenarios under the paper pencil version. And then you had the online testing and the computer reads the test aloud to the students. So it's important to note on this section that this option is not designed to read all parts of the computer screen. The audio files are only available for test questions and answer choices, but the computer will not read graphics, graphs, so on and so forth. So in the test read aloud for online testing scenarios, you have these options. So the child may be able to control what's read to them, and that was previously the read aloud student control. The child may need to click a button, or maybe some parts of the assessment need to be read by a test administrator. And so previously that was the read aloud student control, and the test administrator reads aloud upon request. And this gives you an example of what that may look like. Or the child may need to click a button, and then the child needs all charts and tables read aloud to them, as opposed to just some of the charts. So that'll give you some background here. And then there may be certain situations where there is no ability for the child to control what the computer reads aloud to them, but the child needs everything read aloud to them in an online assessment. So this is another scenario, and you can read this information. But also remember that anytime you have a read aloud option for a child, they must also have separate room on their English learner plan. So this is very important that you remember this, because sometimes we have a child with a read aloud accommodation but then does not have the separate room on their L plan, and then that's problematic because the child can't get the read aloud until that is corrected on that English learner plan. And I'm sure that drives our test coordinators a little crazy. So just make sure that if you do have the read aloud, that you do have separate room on the child's L plan. So this is a great document. We've got it posted again in the L Ed Plan Haiku. It's available there for you to take a look at. So the next thing that I'd like to talk to you about today is very briefly to just a couple reminders with Ed Plan. I've gotten a lot of questions recently about Ed Plan, and I just want to make sure you understand what is going on. And I just want to cover some of these common questions. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a student. I have a test student that I can work with. It's going to take a second. This is called Caitlin Test. I'm going to click here. I'm going to go into this child's LEP process, go down to Create LEP Plan. Now, if you notice the dates here, it's got plan date, plan begin date, and plan end date. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you. Yes, there we go. So these are very important dates, and you can see that this plan for this child ended June 30th of 2016. So if I go to try to print the review of accommodations document for this child, that review of accommodations, that ROA, will not print. And the reason it will not print is because you do not have a current plan. So in order to make this print, I would have to go in, let's change it to September 30th, 2017. Okay, so now you've got a plan begin date, a plan end date, but before that plan will be developed again with that new date, I now have to click Create Final LEP Plan. And so while that's running, just let me repeat. If you're trying to print a review of accommodations document, and today, the day that you're trying to print that document is not between these two dates, the plan begin date and the plan end date, that review of accommodations document will not appear and it will not print. So getting a lot of questions from schools right now that are asking, why will this not print? Often it's because the plan end date has already passed. So double check your plan end dates if you cannot get those review of accommodations to print. So guys, my time is running out. Believe it or not, this has been about 15 minutes, which is all the time I have with this application. If you have additional questions, please email me or ask Ann. We'll be happy to help you out. So thanks a lot for your time, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Goodbye.